My beloved child, there have been seasons when you believed you were walking in peace, yet deep inside there was still a subtle ache. You could not name something gentle, brushing across the surface of the soul while leaving a hollow space beneath it. There were words that sounded soft, so understanding, so on your side, easing your heart like a cold cloth laid on a swelling. Yet when night came, you still did not truly rest. I see every time you cling to a comfort simply because it numbs the pain in the moment, not because it leads you closer to truth. I see you sitting in conversations that make you laugh, yet afterward you walk home with a quiet heaviness you cannot explain. I want to tell you, from this very moment on, that not everything pleasant comes from heaven, and not every silence inside you is peace. Some forms of stillness are merely the numbness of the spirit after it has been saturated by too many sweet noises. I am gently touching the place where you have grown used to calling everything fine, simply because you no longer have the energy to discern. I do not come to rebuke you, but to lift the thin mist that has settled over your ability to recognize my voice. I want to draw you out from a counterfeit safety where your body feels comfortable, but your soul is quietly eroding piece by piece. Imagine yourself standing before the sea. The water is blue and clear, the waves glitter beneath the light, inviting you to drink to ease your thirst. From afar it looks beautiful, and you might mistake that crystal water for something that will refresh you, but the moment you taste it, the salt burns your throat, and your thirst becomes fiercer than before. Many gentle words in your life are like seawater. They appear pure, they sound soothing, but when they touch the depths of you, they leave your soul even more depleted. I teach you, not every voice that brings you calm comes from me. There are voices that always take the side of your wounded feelings, that agree with every anger, that make you feel protected, yet in truth they pull you away from the space of healing truth. I do not throw you into storms to teach you. I lead you through storms with words that can touch your pain without indulging it. When you seek only what feels pleasant, you will miss the gentle whispers where I call you back, redirect you, and ask you to turn, even when it shakes your pride. I want you to learn to ask not only, how does this make me feel, but also, where is this leading my soul? Sometimes you wipe your face with a wet cloth after a long day, feeling refreshed and cooled, believing that you have become much cleaner, but only the dust on the surface has been soothed, while within you still needs water and fresh air to revive. Comfort that does not come from truth is like that wet cloth. It reduces the heat on your face, but it does not reach your spirit where the real wounds lie. I am not jealous of any gentle voice in your life, but I grieve when you confuse wiping your skin with cleansing your soul, when you mistake emotional soothing for healing at the root. There are people who approach you with sympathy, sharing, and listening, but their words pull you away from prayer, away from stillness, away from facing yourself before me. There are phrases like, you deserve to enjoy life, just do what makes you happy, everyone has the right to live as they want, that sound compassionate, but quietly sever the thread that connects you to the deeper calling, inviting you into maturity. I do not deny your need to be loved, understood, and embraced. I only want you to recognize that true love will never comfort you by pushing you away from me. My child, it is time for you to learn the difference between the gentleness that heals and the gentleness that sedates, between a hand that takes yours to lead you into light and a hand that holds you only to keep you in the dim. There will be people who soothe your pain by saying, you did nothing wrong, it was entirely their fault, and for a moment you feel vindicated, but afterward your spirit loses the capacity to repent and be renewed. There will be advice urging you to ignore conscience because, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters, while your soul knows very well that such happiness takes you one more step away from me. I do not call you out of darkness to lock you into a rigid box. I call you so that you may learn to live freely in truth, even when that truth opposes every comforting whisper. I want your heart to become so discerning that every time you hear something sweet, you will ask, where does this lead me? Closer to the presence of the one I love, or farther away? When you begin to ask in this way, you step from being easily swayed into being led by the Holy Spirit, from being pulled by every voice to recognizing the rhythm of my heart in every current. I know there are wounds in your life that make you thirst for praise, thirst to be defended, thirst for someone to tell you that you are right, that you deserve priority, that you need not change anything. It is precisely in those places of lack that every gentle voice becomes a trap with a hidden blade, because it touches where you are weak, but does not pour oil and wine to heal. It only adds sugar so you no longer feel the seriousness of the wound. I do not come to expose you before the world. I come to open your eyes discreetly, so you no longer mistake indulgence for comfort, or confuse those who empathize with your pain with those who collaborate with the turn choices that dim your soul. I want you to have the courage to admit that some forms of peace you have grown accustomed to are not my peace, but a temporary silencing of the warning within. When you dare to let go of those voices, a space will appear, and in that space, I will begin teaching you how to recognize the gentle yet steady rhythm of my voice. Perhaps you have grown used to a gentleness that never opposes you, that never touches the places you need to be, transformed like a hand that only strokes but never grips tight enough to pull you away from the edge. But my gentleness is not like that. My gentleness does not trade truth for temporary comfort. If I merely soothe you without speaking of the choices that are drying your soul, that would no longer be love, it would only be sedation. There are times you long to hear, "You don't need to change anything. Everything is fine." But if I said that while you stand near a dangerous turn, I would betray the deepest part of your heart. I know there is a part of you that longs to be comforted, but there is also a deeper part that yearns to truly live. I choose to respond to the deeper part. I speak softly, but my words do not bow to the illusions that imprison you. That is why you sometimes feel both loved and called out of the place you have clung to. Asterisk, asterisk. My gentleness is not a thick blanket covering every crack so no one sees them. It is like a hand gently lifting the rug so that light may reach the dusty corners you have forgotten. I do not come to lessen your pain by telling you the wound isn't serious. I come to place medicine on it, even if it stings for a moment. I know there are tender words from others that make you feel always right, always the victim, always the most misunderstood, and for a few hours you feel embraced. But afterward, you still lie down with a heart uncorrected, a soul not yet set upright. I cannot love you that way. When I speak to you about forgiveness, about releasing resentment, I do not deny your pain. I simply refuse to let that pain become the master of your life. When I touch the places you long to hide, it is not because I am harsh or cold, but because I honor the destiny I placed in you more than your temporary comfort. I do not see you only in the moment, I see you in the light of eternity. You once confused gentleness with never daring to say no, and mistook meekness for never daring to confront the truth. But look at how I treat you. I speak softly, yet I do not avoid naming what must be named. I do not cradle your fragile ego so much that I would allow your soul to wander away from truth. I do not praise a toxic relationship simply because it keeps you from feeling lonely, nor do I bless a wrong decision simply because you invested many emotions into it. My gentleness knows where to stop at the boundary of deceit. I will not say, "It is fine," to what is not fine, just to spare you from weeping for a moment. I understand that some of my words leave you silent, give you time to digest, but it is precisely there that you are being invited into the realm of maturity. I do not want you to live your entire life relying on others to lull your fears. I want you to learn to stand firm in the peace that comes from truth. My child, there are moments when you want me to simply hold you and say, "Do whatever feels right to you," because every part of you is exhausted by the burden of choosing, deciding, discerning. But if I spoke to you like that, I would allow the winds of every opinion to carry you anywhere. I choose to love you by keeping the inner compass within you alive. When I gently correct your direction, you may feel opposed, but in truth, I am protecting the most beautiful part of you from being stolen. My gentleness is not standing still and watching you drift, waiting until you drown to throw you a lifeline. I walk beside you, touching your shoulder whenever you lean toward a place that does not belong to you, so that you may turn back sooner, with fewer wounds. I know some of my words force you to face the truth that certain people should no longer walk with you, that some habits can no longer be kept, that certain boundaries must be built. I say these things not to make you lonely, but to make room in your soul for healthier things that are coming. Remember this: Sedation demands nothing from you. It only asks you to lie still and fade away. But true gentleness will always pull you toward life, even if it must touch the places in you that have fallen asleep. I am not frightened by your tears, and I am not afraid of your questions. I fear only one thing, that your heart would accept a counterfeit peace so thoroughly that it no longer longs for truth. I know the world will keep offering you tender words that never reach the root, embraces that comfort but never restore, voices that say, "I understand you," while encouraging you to walk away from the light. I invite you to rest your heart in my gentleness, where softness and truth do not separate. There you will find a love that both comforts and shapes, both embraces and releases, both wipes away tears and invites you to rise and keep walking. There are words that make you pause because they sound familiar, dipped in the very tone you hear from me, gentle, soft, full of reassurance. They slip into your mind like a breeze gliding through a cracked window, soft enough to avoid your suspicion, small enough for you to think nothing is wrong. But child, the night wind has no warmth. It is merely the movement of air without purpose, without direction, without life. Words that sound like me but do not come from me are the same. They may carry tenderness, elegance, empathy, yet within them there is no fire, no life, no heartbeat of truth. You listen to them and feel comforted for a moment, only to find your soul hollow afterwards. You reach for those words as if they were a warm blanket, but when you lie down, a coldness begins to seep into your chest, as if something slipped inside before you noticed. My child, I have taught you that a voice from me always carries the weight of light, not the glittering shine that soothes emotions, but the gentle light that reveals the way. If what you hear only protects your ego, only soothes self-pity, only lulls the parts of you that must be corrected, it is not from me. I do not speak to keep you in comfort. I speak to draw your soul out of the shadows where you have grown, accustomed to living. There are voices that say, "You are enough. You don't need to pray anymore," or "You don't need to change. The problem is everyone else," or "Don't look back, just enjoy yourself." They sound like I am granting you rest, but in truth, they are pushing you away from the source of life. They make you forget that real peace does not come from avoidance, but from facing me in honesty and letting me touch the places you have not dared to open. You have read what I declared through Scripture. Satan disguises himself as an angel of light, 2 Corinthians 11:14. It does not come with fangs, nor with a roar, nor with threatening words. It comes with counterfeit understanding, distorted empathy, a love that does not require truth. It draws close to your heart and whispers the very things you most want to hear, not the things your soul must hear in order to live. It does not love you. It only wants to keep you soft, to pull you deeper into false stillness, where you believe you still belong to the light, even as you walk farther from me. Remember, the greatest darkness is not the place where nothing can be seen, but the place where people believe they can see. There are people who enter your life with words as light as the breeze, seizing the exhaustion within you and telling you, "You've endured too much, so choose whatever makes you happy." It sounds like liberation, but in truth it is the lock that chains your soul to momentary emotion. I will never guide you through the mirror of pleasure. I guide you through the wholeness of spirit. When I speak, my words do not drain you, but neither do they let you fall asleep. They awaken, they illuminate, they lead you back to the source. The voices that sound like me merely make you pause your breath. My voice makes you inhale with the life of heaven itself. My child, learn to look beyond the words. Do not simply ask, "Does this sound good?" Ask instead, "Where does it lead me?" The enemy does not need to convince you to do evil. It only needs to convince you to choose what is comfortable. It does not need to lead you into the abyss. It only needs to lead you away from the path toward me. The night wind can slip through a crack without waking you, but I love you enough to knock and wait for you to answer. My words are not hidden, not false, not borrowed in form. They do not look for a way to sneak in. They enter like dawn pouring through a window, not soothing everything at once, but dispelling the darkness without asking permission. There are those who taught you that discernment means seeing the world with suspicion, placing everyone under scrutiny, believing every person carries a hidden motive. But I did not teach you that. I do not lead your soul into twisted caution. where you must inspect every word, every glance, every action, as if darkness lurks behind every door. Fear builds walls. I teach discernment by building foundations. When you return to me, your heart is set back into the orbit of light, and what does not belong to me will naturally begin to feel out of place before your eyes. You do not need to doubt everything around you, you simply need to know where you stand. Darkness does not require you to hunt it. Darkness only fears a light strong enough that it can no longer hide. When you remain in me, the voices that are not from me will lose their charm, even if they once captivated you so deeply you thought you could not live without them. I did not train you to become a gatekeeper who trembles at every sound, but a soul who knows clearly which space belongs to them. Fear makes you react to every gentle voice, as if anyone who comes close is a threat. But I want you to understand this. The enemy cannot steal anything you have placed in my hands. Therefore, discernment is not your attempt to flee from the world. Discernment is your return to the source until everything else becomes quiet. Do not imagine that awareness is a cold gaze that scans the hearts of others. True awareness is like taking a deep breath after a long day. You do not realize how exhausted you have been until you return to my peace. And in that moment you finally understand what has been draining you. I do not ask you to determine who is right and who is wrong. You only need to ask, does the presence of this thing allow your soul to keep its rhythm of breathing with me? There are seasons in which you live in fear of being deceived, afraid of choosing wrongly, afraid of falling into the hands of those who mean harm, and because of fear, you close yourself off. You dare not trust anyone. You even dare not listen to my own voice. Fear makes every sound resemble danger, and suddenly you begin to see yourself as a victim of the world. But I did not bring you into existence in obsession. I brought you into existence in light. I did not teach you to discern like a feral cat crouching, ready to arch its back against anyone who approaches. I teach you to discern like a stream. It is neither angry nor loud, yet anything that does not belong to it is naturally pushed aside. When you return to me, the waters within you become clear, and the pebbles of deception appear like foreign objects. True discernment does not come from looking outward, it comes from listening to the quiet I have placed within your heart. Fear produces souls who tremble and hunt for signs, a glance that seems strange, a sentence that does not soothe, a gesture that feels distant, and they call it spiritual warning. But I do not speak through panic, nor do I speak through the strained emotions that make your heart contract. I speak through gentle steadiness, through reminders like quiet breaths. When something does not come from me, you will sense that it cannot merge with the peace I have planted within you. No alarm is needed. You have only to return to me, and that stillness will reject what does not belong. I do not want you to live like a warrior forever aiming a spear at the shadows, but like someone who knows where they stand. When you know you are in me, you no longer need to doubt every step, you simply walk. Remember that discernment is not your attempt to prove who is right and who is wrong, nor is it a hunt for hidden traps. Discernment is a quiet but powerful action, returning to me before you listen to any other voice. It is not reaction, it is choice. You do not need to stare through people to uncover their intentions. You only need to see whether your heart slips away from my presence when you are near them. I never lead you by suspicion. I lead you by trust that has been placed correctly. The enemy wants you to fear mistakes, fear people, fear your own emotions, but I want you to believe that even if you misstep, I am still there. The enemy wants you to close your eyes, but I want you to open them, not to see danger everywhere, but to recognize that the light within you is greater than any darkness that has ever surrounded you. You once believed that any words which made you feel lighter must have come from me, but relief that does not lead you back to my peace is nothing more than a breeze passing through the mind, leaving a greater emptiness behind. Many voices in this world are like raindrops on glass. They blur your vision, but do not flow anywhere. You think your fatigue has been washed away, when in truth, you are only looking at life through distorted mist. My voice never pushes you out of the home within your soul, where you may lay your head without fear of judgment or demand. My voice never pressures you to prove anything, nor does it make you dance to retain the attention of others. I do not pull you into conversations that weigh your soul down. nor push you into relationships in which you must erase yourself to be accepted. I only direct you back to the place where you can breathe, where your heart no longer must hide its softness, where you learn that wounds are not reasons for shame, but evidence of how I have preserved you through storms. My voice does not call from outside to send you wandering. It rises from deep within your soul, like a small flame, not dazzling, but warm enough to remind you that you have always belonged. There are voices that come from faces that seem kind, words soft as cotton, yet each sentence they speak pushes you farther from the stillness within. They tell you to forget the principles you once believed, to step away from the values that kept you grounded, to live fluidly like water so no one can accuse you of being stubborn. They target your weariness not to heal it, but to soften your soul so it may be bent. That softness does not lead you back to me. It leads you to territories where the soul is torn into fragments to serve the temporary comfort of others. My voice will never ask you to trade away your essence just to hold on to affection. I do not teach you to silence your conscience to appease the world, nor train you to sever truth so you may stand among the crowd. I bring you back to the source, where you do not need to play any role other than yourself, where you do not need to wear a smile to disguise an ocean of pain rising at nightfall. My voice may not excite you in the moment, but it always leads you back to the place where peace does not shift. My voice is not like temptations wrapped in silk, pleasant scents that are traps for the heart, luring it into emotion until it forgets its own soul. Those voices are like warm sands beneath your feet, comfortable to walk upon, yet the farther you travel, the more distant you become from solid ground. I never train you to chase after feelings, for feelings are waves, and waves have no harbor. I teach you to recognize which voice brings you back to yourself, to the breath deep enough for you to remember you are alive, to the light steady enough for you to stand firm against darkness pressing in from every side. I speak in a way that compels you to quiet down, to ask yourself, have I wandered too far from the source? Not to condemn you, but to remind you that every step away from me draws the soul toward a barren land, where praise, applause, and promises are only wind sweeping across cracked soil. Many voices attempt to make you forget the ache, but I never cover it with thin cloth. I allow you to touch it, to see it, to name it, for only then do you understand what you truly need. The comfort I give does not come from avoiding truth, but from standing within truth, alongside me. My voice does not push you toward places where you must gather fragments of yourself after every escape. My voice leads you back to where you may lay down your burdens without fear of judgment. You know my voice by this. It does not drive you to run from yourself. It brings you back to sit with yourself. When others offer shortcuts to deliverance, I simply place my hand on your shoulder and say, walk steady. While every invitation flaunts dazzling lights, I light only a single candle, not grand, but enough for you to see the path in the night. My voice brings you home, and that is why it never urges you to chase what you are not ready for. I do not push you into pointless races. I do not give you goals so you can boast about them, and I do not force you to prove your worth through outcomes. I place you in the rhythm of growth, where every step is measured by inner peace, not by outer noise. If a voice urges you to abandon your soul for the sake of achievement, that voice is not mine. If advice asks you to deceive yourself just to be loved, it does not come from me. I bring you back, little by little, like a guide leading a wanderer home, dusting off the table, opening the windows so you can feel a familiar breeze again. I do not pull you away from life. I pull you away from illusions. And when you return, you do not return as someone defeated, but as one learning how to live with the truth within. There are words that make your heart tremble like the first pluck of a new string. Those first vibrations trick you into thinking I am flinging the gates wide open, that heaven has tilted itself to pull you toward instant happiness. But I do not lead you by the sound of emotion. I lead you by direction. Emotion is like a sudden flame. It warms the hands for a moment, but cannot heat the soul through the long night. You may feel comforted, you may feel soothed, but if you follow those words and your heart grows heavier, then you must stop and look. Does that path lead you toward the light? My voice never encourages you to choose what is quickest. I train you to choose what is right. Words that burst open like a door flung wide for a brief moment often lead into a corridor of locked rooms, while my voice is like a slightly opened door that requires you to bend low and step gently in order to enter. I do not come like dazzling fireworks, but like a steadfast oil lamp, illuminating each small step you take. The path I lead rarely begins in excitement. It is more like a gentle trail up a hill. You see the destination only as a thin streak of light in the distance, offering no immediate beauty, promising no applause at the end. But each step on that path fills your lungs with fresh air, strengthens your heart in healing pressure, and teaches your soul that it is walking in the right direction. A shortcut is bright, it is filled with calls, convenience, and promises of rapid results. People tell you that you only need to turn aside to reach in a moment what others take a lifetime to touch. But shortcuts are like smooth stone paths, beautiful by day, yet at night they turn into hidden traps leading to fog-covered cliffs where one misstep can pull your whole life into the abyss. I will never push you onto roads on which your soul will slip simply because they felt pleasant at the beginning. I teach you to choose paths that can hold you when strong winds blow across your life. My direction never trades truth for comfort. You will recognize me not when you hear something that makes you laugh or something that relieves your pain for an afternoon, but when you walk a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and find your heart no longer pretending. My voice leads you towards steadiness, not excitement. I do not call you into a life where everything is easy. I call you into a life where everything has meaning. There are whispers that coax you to let your mind rest, don't think too deeply, but that rest only allows old habits to sink deeper roots. I do not lull you back into what weakens you. I gently pull you away from what makes you forget who you are. Instant emotion is like a still lake reflecting clouds, beautiful but shallow. Direction is like the quiet river beneath the soil, unseen, yet nourishing the forest beyond your view. You will know my voice when it not only comforts you, but invites you to open your eyes. When I whisper, you do not feel released from responsibility, you feel strengthened to walk into it. Others may tell you that you are already enough, that you do not need to change, that the world is to blame and never you. But I speak to you with a gentleness no one can imitate. Look again at the path you are standing on. That gentleness does not diminish you. It opens possibilities you have forgotten. I do not speak to make you feel wonderful. I speak to help you see what is dimming the light of your soul. And when you hear me properly, you do not run away from yourself. You return to yourself. Your steps slow, your breathing steadies, and peace is not a gift I place in your hand, but something that grows from within. There are seasons when you do not hear my voice in words, but through the wall I raise. Before you, you ask why familiar paths suddenly become uneven, why those who once spoke sweetness now carry only emptiness, why doors that once opened lock themselves when you approach. You think I am far from you, but in truth I am pulling your choices toward me. My voice is not always a gentle whisper. Sometimes it is the moment I let a shortcut collapse right before your eyes so you can save yourself from the depths. I am not afraid of you being disappointed. I am afraid of you living comfortably inside a lie. I am not afraid of your questions. I am afraid of your silence, of you turning away, of you seeking counsel that makes your heart no longer need me. I guide you by direction, because direction leads you into heaven. Instant emotion only traps you in a moment. There are words that enter your mind like a waiter in a small tea shop, bringing exactly what you crave at the exact moment you are tired. They do not ask about origins or journeys. They only ask what you want right now, and they place an answer into your hand so neatly that your soul nods before it has time to awaken. False words never need time to listen to your true self. They only need to know what you are lacking in the moment, and turn that lack into a key. When you are confused, they offer certainty. When you are hurting, they offer forgetfulness. When you are impatient, they offer radiant shortcuts. And because they fit so perfectly, so conveniently, you think they are the doors of heaven, opening. But heaven does not arrive as the fulfillment of your desires. Heaven arrives as an invitation to return to the true nature of your soul. False words are like a thin mirror. They give you a shimmering image, but if you lay your hand upon it, you touch only emptiness. False words do more than soothe your emotions. They use your own intellect against you. They know you are weary from waiting, exhausted from silence, worn thin from disappointment. So they do not argue with your soul. They merely nod and tell you that you deserve an easier path, a faster reward, a love that requires no learning. They make you believe every trial is injustice, every delay, abandonment, every wound proof that you are not enough. And while you are busy defending yourself against such thoughts, they appear as a hero, a rescuer, a strange little lantern in the night. But its light does not come from the source of life. It is only a borrowed current, bright for a moment and gone when you need it most. False words never want you to understand why you hurt. They only want you to forget your hurt so you will follow them. They do not need your soul to mature. They only need your soul to soften so they can mold it. There are words that give the feeling of being perfectly understood, as if the speaker has read every thought in your mind. Yet that understanding wraps only around immediate desire, never planting its feet in the spirit within you. True words touch the root. False words touch only the surface. True words ask who you must become. False words ask only what you want to receive. Look at the words that promise pain will vanish if you simply close your eyes, that promise you will find freedom if you abandon everything behind you, that promise life needs only courage to break every limit. They sound like a refreshing spring, yet when you drink, your throat dries with salt. They resemble a crystal clear sea viewed from afar, but when you step into it, the salt slips into every crack of your skin and leaves you thirstier than before. False words carry no breath of life. They carry illusions. And when the illusion breaks, it is you who must pay the price with a part of your heart, and with the years spent rebuilding what it has destroyed. True words do not flatter your soul with glitter. They approach like a friend who sits beside you in a long night, slowly, unforced, promising nothing except companionship. I do not tell you that all things will be peaceful simply because you are afraid. I tell you that you can stand firm, even while the waves still strike the shore. My words do not need to create shortcuts, because they themselves are the road. They do not seek to make you feel extraordinary in an instant. They teach you how to be calm in every small step. I do not build you with lightning. I build you with dawn, slow, steady, and always returning at its appointed hour. False words know only how to make you rejoice for a fleeting moment. My words teach you peace through the years, and through that process, you do not become a victor in the eyes of the world. You become one who holds the truth in your own eyes. False words make you believe you can bloom without roots, that you can fly without wind, that you can love without learning patience. They flatter you so you forget endurance. They praise you so you never examine yourself. But my words do not let you sleep upon temporary glory. I set you on soil where the seed must split its shell, where tears water the dry ground, where the light arrives at its proper time. I do not allow you to rise because of inspiration. I teach you to rise because of truth. No hill stands firm if you climb it in arrogance. Only the hill that leads to peace stands firm when you climb with resolve. And in the end, what you learn is not how to avoid pain, but how to no longer be ruled by it. There are words that approach you in gentle whispers, creating no pressure, never mentioning light, never speaking of overcoming. They ask you, why must you try? Why must you forgive? Why must you pray? They wrap you in a blanket of self-pity, not as comfort, but as sedation. They tell you that because you have suffered enough, you must now place yourself at the center of everything. Love yourself by blocking every signal from me, distancing yourself from every correction, and cutting off anyone who challenges you. They claim that peace is not something to be practiced, but something to be possessed immediately. That happiness is not the fruit of growth, but the reward for having been hurt enough. They make you forget that true love does not avoid the wound, but faces it, does not sever itself from the source of life, but returns to receive healing. False. Gentleness always chooses the shortest path. It erases the dialogue between you and me, and replaces it with a monologue circling around your exhaustion. It tells you to indulge your pain like a defiant child, to let your wounds lead your emotions, and to see anyone who asks you to grow as an improper enemy. It takes your hand and leads you through polished mirrors, each one reflecting, you are always right, you are always worthy, you never need to change. But behind those mirrors there is no path. You stand alone in a room full of your own images, thinking it is freedom, when, in truth, it is a prison without doors. It is the place where prayer dies, because it no longer has a reason to exist. When you believe you are the center of everything, you will never bow your head, and when you never bow your head, heaven cannot open. False gentleness encourages you to love yourself, but never tells you that such love must rest within the framework of truth. It does not speak of healing, only of soothing. It does not speak of the journey, only of the resting point. It tells you to embrace the cracks in your soul and build altars to them, instead of bringing them to the place where the light can mend them. My child, I have never called you to hate yourself, but the love you need does not come from turning the mirror toward your own face. It comes from lifting your eyes to where I wait. When you pray, you are not simply searching for solutions. You are recovering identity. You remember where you belong. You realize that love is not a beautiful garment you wear to conceal a wound, but the gentle hand placed upon that wound, whispering, I am here. False gentleness whispers that you are strong enough to overcome everything alone, that you do not need to ask, that you do not need to listen to anyone but yourself. It paints dependence on me as weakness, and independence from me as triumph. It convinces you that prayer is an act of the desperate, that seeking me is the submissiveness of souls who cannot take care of themselves. But you must remember, true freedom is not standing alone in the desert. It is walking under the cloud of my covering. Pride, wrapped in the disguise of self-love, will lead you into emptiness. It makes you believe that you are complete, full, and unshakable until the first wind blows, and you discover your foundation is nothing but sand. When you allow false gentleness to guide you, you will slowly withdraw from the places where I dwell, the quiet of the mind, the simple prayers, the moments when you ask me for even the smallest answer. For prayer requires you to look beyond yourself, to ask, to wait, to listen, to surrender. But false gentleness whispers, you need no one. Yet do you not see? A seed never tells the soil it has enough water. A bird never tells the sky it has enough wind. So it is with your soul, it cannot live on its own breath. It was born to breathe in me. There are kinds of gentleness wrapped in such excessive comfort that your soul forgets it was born to grow. They come like a soft chair placed in the middle of the road, telling you to sit because the world is too harsh. They tell you that you have suffered enough, that you need not stand, that you need not send roots into the ground. Only lean on praise, on admiration, on the sympathy of those who prefer soothing to healing. They do not speak to you of endurance. They only offer temporary ease. A path that never asks you to grow will keep you forever in a state of immaturity, living off what does not belong to you, and you mistake it for safety. But like a tree leaning against a wall protected from the wind, yet never learning how to anchor its roots into the earth to face the storm, you may be shielded for a season, but you will be swept away when the new winds arrive. Gentleness without depth always nourishes you with the energy of dependence. It tells you that you do not need to take responsibility for your soul, because there will always be someone who carries you, decides for you, and feels on your behalf. It tells you that you only need to remain in your pain and let others clean it up. It encourages you to seek empathy instead of healing, to collect embraces instead of learning how to stand. It blurs the line between being comforted and being held back. By the time you need to walk, your feet have already forgotten how to move. It does not resist you the way obvious lies do. It numbs you gently. It does not push you into darkness. It simply blinds your eyes with a soothing softness that carries no light. In that state, you begin to fear the very places I call you back to. Prayer, stillness, facing yourself. You fear loneliness, because it is no longer the space where you meet me, but the place where no one soothes you. You begin to treat silence as an enemy, because it does not say, you are right, you are wronged, you deserve better. You treat difficult words as an attack, treat correction as rejection, treat truth as something that harms. But my child, truth does not diminish you, it raises you up. It is like the rough ground beneath the roots of a tree, painful for a moment so the roots may find their grip, so the tree will not be swept away when the storm arrives. I have never invited you to lean on those who only know how to soothe. I teach you to seek the well that revives the soul. Not every outstretched hand comes to lift you. Some hands exist to keep you still. Gentleness without depth makes you believe that the spiritual journey is a path laid with flowers, where you simply walk, slowly, smile, and wait for blessings to find you. It makes you forget that light is not a gift for a soul that sleeps. It trades the meaning of peace for absence of conflict. It teaches you to avoid the challenges that lead to maturity because they make you uncomfortable. It whispers that those who ask you to change are trying to control you, that prayer is weakness, and that needing me is an admission of failure. But true maturity will always require you to step into places where you cannot rely on anyone except me. Just as a tree cannot learn to stand if it never leaves the wall. You cannot know how strong you are until you learn to stand in my light. My child, you were not born to be a tree that leans forever against a wall. You were born to grow roots deep into my soil. Roots are not beautiful. They are not praised. They are not seen. But they are where everything begins. Your roots are prayer, silence, truth, the places where you learn to feel me, not through comfort, but through direction. People will tell you to lean on love, but true love does not cradle you endlessly in its arms. It places you on the ground, straightens your back, and says, stand. Not because you are unworthy of comfort, but because you are worthy of strength. Not because you must endure more pain, but because you were born to overcome pain. You were born to rise, not to cling to temporary walls. There are times when you think holiness exists only in hours of prayer, in sacred moments, in places where candlelight glows and songs resound. You imagine holiness appears only when you kneel or when your soul trembles before something beyond comprehension. But I bring holiness into your life through things so small that you often overlook them. I do not only shape you through great events or miraculous signs. I use the subtle movements you live each day. When you tidy a room and find peace in its order, when you take a deep breath so as not to respond in anger, when you choose a kind word amid frustration, you are walking into the place where I am training you. Without your awareness, these seemingly insignificant things are seeds of faith, not dazzling, but steady, not glorious, but nurturing the roots. I send holiness to you not through applause, but through the moment you want to retaliate and instead choose silence. I do not only illuminate you on spiritual mountaintops. I teach you in ordinary living rooms, when you hold a difficult conversation but try not to harm anyone. I am present when you rethink your words at night, realizing that a careless sentence hurt someone, and you quietly send an apology without being asked. Holiness is not a halo draped over life. It is the small corner of the soul where you choose truth over ease. It is the moment you feel exhausted, yet, instead of abandoning everything to escape, you stand up once more. My holiness always hides within the stretches you think insignificant, like beams of light, pushing through branches, not loud but patiently awakening the earth. I do not demand that you abandon life to become holy. I teach you to live life in the light. When you wash dishes, when you care for the sick, when you turn off a video that weighs down your heart, when you set your phone aside to sit in stillness before me, you are stepping into practical holiness. The world imagines holiness as something distant, a burdensome duty, a dry rulebook. But my holiness is the breath in your lungs, the gentle look in your eyes toward the weak, the patience that appears when you have none left. I do not teach you to flee life. I teach you to carry light into every rhythm of it. When you extend a hand with no expectation of return, when you see injustice and take the side of truth, despite trembling, when you choose to refuse words that harm, you walk through the world as one who carries fire. My child, you are not trained in places of glory. You are forged in the unseen places. A single moment of restraint can change the flow of a day. One decision grounded in truth can alter the course of your life. The quiet habits you maintain, morning prayer, a page of scripture, silence. Before sleep, these are not trivial. They are the spine of your spirit. Just as a tree is not supported by blossoms at the crown, but by the deep rings beneath its bark, you do not grow through flashes of brilliance, but through the silent actions repeated in my light. I do not want you to call upon me only when your soul is wounded. I want you to know me in every ordinary step of life. There are experiences you think unworthy of. Mention a meal you prepare while exhausted, a conversation you silence so it does not turn into conflict, a small amount of money you give even though no one sees. These become the stones I lay beneath your feet, so you learn to walk at my rhythm rather than the rhythm of the world. I use the simplest things to melt pride, so you understand that the soul matures not in moments of victory, but in the places where you willingly humble yourself. No one hears the roots piercing the earth, but the whole forest is kept standing by them. You often wish that spiritual transformation would come like a bolt of lightning, striking down, shattering all pain, sweeping away old habits in a single night. You hope for some miracle that will free you from the fears that have taken root, from the obsessions that have sunk deep, from the attachments that make you think you will never be enough. But I do not shape your soul with storms. I forge you with water. Water does not shout as it passes through the cracks in the rock, yet, over time, it carves out a valley. No one knows exactly when the rock face begins to change, but everyone recognizes the result. I transform you in the same way, bit by bit, breath by breath, through each small choice you consider insignificant. Transformation is not the loud explosion, but the sound so gentle that your soul must grow quiet to perceive it. There are seasons when you stand before the mirror and ask, why am I still the same? Why do I still stumble? You look at the failures that once exhausted you and assume you have not grown, because growth does not come with excitement. But water never asks, how far it has worn down the rock, it simply keeps flowing. I do not ask you to measure your own transformation. I want you to trust the pace at which I lead you. You do not see the old rope weakening. You only see that it still exists. Yet each day you choose what is slightly better. Each moment you return to me instead of acting on instinct. Each time you restrain your ego instead of grasping for the right to retaliate. That is when the stream is touching the stone within you. You see only a drop of water fall. I see an entire cliff face being formed. Many souls think spiritual transformation must come from thunderous prophecies, spectacular visions, or overwhelming experiences. But my child, what I place in your soul is not a fever of zeal. It is a steady breath. Like water flowing over a dry trunk, it does not cause it to bloom at once. It only softens the fibers deep within. You cannot see that softening, but one day you will touch it and realize that the place once hardened has learned to drink. The words I whisper in the quiet are not meant to set you ablaze. They are meant to help you take root. When you no longer chase dazzling emotions to prove your faith, but begin to seek steadiness, that is when transformation has already begun. True transformation will always test your impatience. It does not bring quick crowns or reward hurried steps. It draws you into the rhythm of patience, where you must learn to accept that what lasts requires time. You repeat a mistake. You feel disappointed. You think you have failed, but you do not realize that recognizing that mistake is already a step forward. Like a stream that redirects when it meets a large rock, you learn to adjust your course when you stumble. I do not require you to break every boulder at once. I ask that you keep flowing. When you keep praying even when you see no answer, when you keep forgiving even when no one returns the gesture, when you keep choosing goodness even when no one praises you, that is when I am touching the deepest parts of your soul. Many chase noisy transformation, desperate to see it with their eyes. They want to be praised for holiness, recognized for kindness, regarded as those who have reached some spiritual peak. But my child, the stream does not boast as it wears down stone. It simply does its work. I do not want you to seek validation from people. Your transformation is not meant to be seen. It is meant to be lived. When you have learned to remain silent before insult, you do not need anyone to know. I have seen it. When you surrender a superficial desire to protect your soul, you do not need anyone's approval. I already know. When you choose to return to me after seasons of drifting, you do not need to condemn yourself. I have been waiting. There are places in your heart that are like rock that has slept for 1,000 years unmoved, unbroken, incapable of softness. You assume you must break it yourself, but I only ask you to let the water continue to flow over it. I am never in a hurry, because I know that what endures is always born from persistent rhythm. Transformation does not explode, it seeps in, and one day you will look back on the months and years you once called stagnation and realize, I have been carving you into the shape I saw from the very beginning. There is no soul I created to walk in a straight line without ever falling. You do not grow through perfection. You grow through limping, through slips that seem to shatter you. When you stumble, you think it proves you are unworthy or off course. But my child, I have been there in each fall. I see how confused you feel, how your heart trembles, how you accept exhaustion as if it were your destiny. Yet I do not look at you with condemnation. I look at you as someone learning to walk. A child who is learning to take its first steps is never judged by the number of times it falls. It is loved for daring to get up one more time. Each of your falls is a silent lesson I send to forge endurance in your soul. I do not teach you to win by avoiding failure. I teach you to win by no longer fearing it. There are times when you think you have learned enough never to fall at the same point again, and then you repeat the old mistake. You say to yourself, why am I not improving? Why am I so foolish? It is this self-condemnation that turns a fall into an abyss instead of a lesson. But look at what happens after each stumble. You walk a little slower, you pay more attention, you trust me more, you better recognize the shortcuts that lead you away from peace. Maturity is not never falling. Maturity is knowing where you have fallen and refusing to rename yourself failure. Each time you collapse, I am deepening the soil, so your roots can anchor more firmly. Just as a tree cannot stand strong by growing through a single season of gentle breeze, your soul cannot be strengthened by easy days alone. When you stumble, people may look at you and judge. They may say you are weak, out of control, lacking in faith. But I do not borrow their words to define you. I do not use human eyes to measure you. I see the exhaustion in your heart after you have tried. I see the tears you shed when you return home, silent and unable to explain yourself to anyone. I see the way you touch your chest to see whether you still know how to believe. I see all of this, and I do not turn away. I do not push you out of the light because of a single slip. I bend down and say, stand up. Not because I want you to start running again immediately, but because I want you to know that falling is never the final stop. Each time you stumble, you begin to see where your body is weak, where your mind is easily shaken, what doors your heart has left open. Not every lesson can be learned while you are standing firm. Some truths are only engraved when you touch the ground. Just as water only finds a new path when it meets an obstacle, your soul only learns to step into humility when it faces its own limits. Pride rarely breaks in victory, but it softens when you fall. Hardness does not dissolve under praise, but it cracks when you realize you need me more than you have admitted. I do not allow you to fall in order to hurt you. I allow you to fall so you will know you are not the source of your own strength. Your true strength does not come from never having failed. It comes from knowing how to seek me when failure finds you. My child, remember that falling is part of the journey, not the final full stop. Just as a path up a hill has slippery stretches, I do not expect you to walk it with flawless posture, never scraping your feet. I want you to understand that every time you stumble, you are learning how to walk with me, not walk alone. I do not teach you how to step out of the light whenever you feel unworthy. I teach you how to return to the light the moment you realize you lack it. Do not confuse falling with failure. Falling is simply an invitation to rise in a different way. No stone can block you when I am beside you. There are only stones that help you recognize that your feet need to grow stronger. You often think gentleness is soothing words, phrases that make you feel comfortable, silence that avoids conflict, an atmosphere where no one mentions what you are not ready to face. You think gentleness is softness that never risks touching your feelings, something that caresses the wound but never reaches the cause. But my gentleness is not a cloth thrown over the problem so that you no longer see it. My gentleness is like a hand resting on your shoulder, turning you back toward the right door even when you want to avoid it. I do not lull your soul into a sleep of temporary comfort. I uphold you at the right moment, keep you from panic, and then place truth before you so that you may grow. My gentleness is never separated from truth, because gentleness that does not lead to truth is only a numbing agent, not healing. There were times when you asked me, why do you tell me the truth so soon? Why don't you let me stay at peace just a little longer? But my child, I see what you cannot see. I see you walking toward a sweet abyss, where each step forward makes it harder to turn back. I see relationships that are not places of healing, but refuges you use to forget yourself. I see decisions you label as self-love, which, in reality, are ways of avoiding the darker corners of your soul. I do not break you so that you will see the truth. I draw you close, place my hand over your heart, and say, "Look, my gentleness is light," shining into a dusty room not to shame you, but to show you what needs to be cleaned. Light never apologizes for revealing dust. It only does what it was made to do. My gentleness is not silent permission for lies to grow. I never close my eyes while you trade pieces of your soul in exchange for emotional stability. When you defend the very things that are wearing you down inside, I do not stand by and watch you dig yourself deeper into the dark. I am gentle, but I am not weak. I am tender, but I do not compromise. I may use a whisper instead of thunder, but that whisper is sharp enough to cut through illusion. Like the first breeze of autumn that tells a leaf its season has come, I do not need to shout for your soul to understand. My gentleness is like water, flowing into the cracks you do not notice, softening the hardened ground you thought had turned to stone. I do not force you to change. I lead you into change. The world teaches you that gentleness means indulging every feeling, avoiding discomfort, soothing every fear so you never have to face the truth. But my child, that kind of gentleness is the cradle of dependency. It does not help you stand. It makes you lie down. It does not teach you to walk with steady feet. It teaches you to always look for someone else to carry you. It does not restore your soul. It only helps you forget the cry for rescue within. My gentleness is different. It does not avoid pain. It heals pain. It does not avoid truth. It clothes truth in mercy. Like a physician who rests a hand on the wound before touching it with the needle, I let you feel that I am there before the treatment begins. I do not give you gentleness to keep you in the dark. I give you gentleness so you will be strong enough to walk into the light. My child, let me remind you of this. My gentleness never costs you truth. If someone claims to love you but hides the truth in order to keep you inside their own safe zone, that is not love that comes from me. If any counsel brings you a sense of peace yet dulls your soul's sensitivity to me, that counsel is not from me. I do not lead you out of reality. I lead you out of deception. I do not tuck you into a room where hidden flames are burning. I pull you through the window, even when that pull feels like it hurts. For I know there is a gentleness without truth that will slowly destroy you. But gentleness with truth will raise you up stronger than you have ever been. You are afraid that if you trust my voice, you will become fragile, easily wounded, like a soul waiting for others to decide for you. The world has drilled into you that only those who fight on their own, stand by themselves, harden themselves, are truly strong, and that those who place their trust in the unseen are weak and easily broken. But my child, I have never called you to become a cold stone that never bows. I did not form you to be armor that shields you from every feeling. I formed you so that you would know how to lean on a strength beyond yourself, so you would not have to strain until you collapse. Strength in me is not stubbornness. It is knowing how to rest like a boat that does not resist the current with all its might, but knows how to set its sail so the wind can carry it farther. You think, relying on me makes you weak, but weakness only exists when you lean on things that cannot carry your soul. Leaning on me is not surrendering in defeat. It is the act of one who understands they do not need to fight alone. My voice never calls you a coward. My voice does not shrink you, nor does it turn you into a soul that apologizes for existing. My voice leads you into a land where courage does not come from displaying strength, but from the quiet assurance of being protected. When I say, rest, I am not teaching you to run away. I am teaching you to choose your battles in their proper time. When I say, let go of what keeps you restless, I am not stripping you of control. I am loosening the cords the enemy has quietly wrapped around your wrists through small compromises. Some will tell you that prayer is for those who cannot face life, but only weak souls are afraid to kneel. Kneeling before me is not surrendering to the world. It is how you recover your breath when the world has made you choke. I do not lead you into dependence. I lead you into a directed reliance. Like a young tree that does not cling to a wall to fall asleep, but sends its roots into the ground to draw life. The weak use leaning as a way to escape responsibility, The one who knows how to lean uses it to find true strength. You can brace yourself for one more season, trying to prove something to those who will never truly see you. But the price you pay is a soul that dries out. I do not want you to become a cold, towering structure. I want you to become a flowing stream, receiving water from me and then pouring out blessing. The one who carries everything alone will break, but the one who leans on me will stand for a long time. You cannot face the storm with bare hands, but if you know how to lean on me, the storm will no longer hold authority over you. When you learn to lean on me, you step into another realm of strength, the strength of one who no longer places their expectations on mortals. You stop demanding that others fill you, because you recognize that no one can do what I do. You learn to choose silence when people try to drag you into chaos, to stand firm when praise becomes a trap, to smile at rejection because you understand that rejection may be the protection I have prepared for you. Those who know how to lean are gentle because they are not fighting everything in their own flesh. Those who refuse to lean are often harsh because they live in a constant state of imbalance. I did not shape you to be a whirlwind that sweeps everything away. I formed you to be a pillar of cloud that leads the way, sometimes soft, sometimes silent, but always carrying life. You think that depending on me will make you look weak in the eyes of the world, yet this very world is exhausted by souls who rely only on themselves and then collapse. I know what happens when someone tries to live without being attached to their source. They become easily influenced, easily led away by flattery, easily pulled from a life of prayer by counterfeit tenderness. Whoever does not lean on me will eventually lean on someone weaker than themselves, a relationship, an idea, a dream, a desire. They think themselves strong, yet hand over the ownership of their soul to things that can change at any moment. But you, I want you to know how to stand upright before me so that you never need to bow to mortals. I want you to bow low in prayer so that you do not have to bend under manipulation. Leaning on me is not bondage. It is the way you are freed from every other bondage. My voice does not turn you into someone weak, my child. It teaches you how to rest in my peace, how to stand in my truth, how to walk in my wisdom. Strength does not come from constant straining, but from knowing where to let go and where to hold on. You do not need to do everything. To prove that you need no one, you only need to know that you cannot live without me. When you understand this, you will no longer be afraid of reliance. You will stop chasing false gentleness that makes you forget the deepest parts of your soul. You will no longer seek refuge in trembling hands. You will let your soul rest in arms that do not shake. You often imagine that gentleness is a sign of weakness, that if I were truly powerful, I would speak with thunder and shake you with storms. But I have no need to raise my voice to prove my power. I am gentle because I know exactly the limits of your soul, when you need only a light touch to keep from breaking, when you need stillness instead of correction. You have walked through many seasons no one has seen, carrying wounds that only you know. I do not treat you according to the world's standards, for the world judges by appearance. While I look at the roots, I know where your soul has been stretched thin, where your heart has torn before, and the stretches of road you have walked in your own strength until you were so tired you had no words left. I am gentle, not because I am weak, but because I am strong enough not to crush a trembling heart. There are things I could teach you with fire, but I choose a gentle breeze because I want you to learn in peace, not in terror. There are lessons I could carve into you with thunder, but I choose to whisper so that you will know I do not force you to love me. The evil one pulls you by fascination, seizes your weaknesses, and swallows your soul with temptation. I do not act like that. I call you by light, not by punishment. I lead you step by step, without haste. I do not shove you. I do not drag you. I set a path before you and invite you to walk it with me. For I know that true transformation does not come from coercion, but from a willing heart. When I am gentle, it is not concession. It is the declaration that I have no need of violence to win your soul. You have blamed me for not intervening more forcefully, for not stopping certain people, for not extinguishing temptations with a storm. But I know that if I did, you would learn fear instead of trust. I know that your endurance does not lie in your ability to resist everything, but in your ability to return to me when you are surrounded on every side. I am gentle because I want you to. Understand that spiritual maturity is a journey, not a miraculous leap. If I pulled you too quickly, you would think it was your own strength. If I placed you in spaces where I know your roots are not yet deep, you would be shattered again. I do not test you to see whether you will fail. I test you, so that you may see you know where to find me. And because I know the weight you are already carrying, I place on you only what is fitting, neither too much nor too little. The world does not understand my gentleness. The world believes that truth must be sharp, must cut deep, so that people will be terrified into change. But my gentleness is a blade sharpened with light. It does not slice your flesh. It separates darkness from your soul. It does not tear you apart to repair you. It loosens each knot that has left you breathless. I touch you as a master jeweler touches an unfinished gem, not because you are fragile, but because I know your value. Rough stone is shaped with hammers. Gemstones are shaped with hands. You are a gem, not common stone. That is why I do not smash you. I refine you with patience. There are souls that prefer a harsh tone, because they think severity alone proves truth, but truth does not need to scream to remain truth. My truth stands firm in silence. It is like the moonlight in the night, not blinding, not showy, yet enough to guide the soul that knows how to wait. Darkness can imitate light to enchant you, but it can never bring peace. I know when you are swayed by sweet words, and I also know when you need my silence to recognize what inside you is trembling. I am gentle not because I am absent, but because I am holding your heart, not allowing it to break again. You think I do not understand the tension that seeps into every bone and every breath when you have to make a choice. You imagine I see only the final decisions and not the battles that rage in your mind. But I have been with you in every sleepless night, in every middle ground, where you know what is right yet still fear the loss it might bring. I know. Even the choices you made out of loneliness, abandonment, and exhaustion. I know when false gentleness drapes over you like honey, and I know how to touch you without making you fall. I do not shove you. I place my hand on your shoulder so you can realize that you have never had to stand alone. I am gentle because I know you have not forgotten how to be soft. You think you have become hardened, but beneath those layers of defense is a heart still longing to be touched in the right way. I do not demand that you be strong so that I can stay with you. I stay with you so that you may become strong. Your capacity to endure is not measured by how many times you stand up on your own, but by how many times you allow me to lift you. And when you understand this, you will see, my gentleness is not a sign that you are weak. It is the evidence that I know you more deeply than anyone else. You have lived in a world where praise is currency, where gentle words do not come to nourish the soul, but to indulge the ego. Those voices make you hold your head high, but never teach you how to bow. They make you feel special, but never teach you how to truly love. I do not speak to you in that way. I do not craft phrases that inflate your image of yourself just to excite you for a moment. I do not remind you that you are above others, that your destiny overshadows the souls beside you. My words never create comparisons so that you feel superior. My voice does not encourage the ego. My voice lifts the heart, the deepest part of you, where you know who you are in my eyes, not the place where you strive to prove yourself to the world. When I speak, I do not stir up your hunger to be seen. I awaken the stillness in which you recognize that you belong to the light. My voice is like a gentle breeze passing over a field after rain. It does not shake everything, but it makes each blade of grass stand upright. I do not need to make you feel magnificent for you to be steady. True steadiness does not grow from feeling admired, but from knowing you have a place to lean when you are fragile. I do not lead you into shallow confidence like a thin coat of paint on the surface. I lead you into the solidity of deep roots. A tree does not stand firm because people call it beautiful. It stands because its roots have reached the hidden waters. In the same way, you are not strong because of applause that sends your ego soaring. You are strong when your heart is anchored in my presence, when you know that even if no one sees you, I do. Where I lift you up, you do not need to showcase your rising. That very rising carries its own voice. There are voices so sweet they make you feel invincible. Yet, after the excitement fades, you find yourself empty. These are voices that swell the ego. They create the sensation of being loved, seen, recognized, but they never teach you how to stand before me in humility. They are like a glass of cold syrup in a drought. You drink and feel a rush, but when true thirst returns, you realize it was never water. My voice does not intoxicate you, it deepens you. I do not come to soothe the ego, I come to heal the heart. There are dazzling roads that make you think you are rising, when in truth, they lead you to the place where your ego swells like a balloon, just waiting for the slightest touch to burst. I do not lead you onto such roads. I lead you up gentle slopes, soft, steady, secure, where each step presses another small root into the ground. You once thought strength meant becoming more important than others, being celebrated, walking with an invisible crown upon your head. But true strength does not lie in position. It lies in your ability not to need proof. I want you to know how to bend low without losing your worth. I want you to know how to love those who are weaker without looking down on them. I want you to know how to see the world with eyes that do not compare, not because you are lesser, but because you know you do not need to measure. My voice always leads you to the place where your heart is soft and your soul is steady, so you can stand in a room full of people and feel no need to compete for attention, so you can forgive without needing an apology, so you can keep walking even when no one is cheering. This kind of growth is not loud. It is like a seed sprouting in the dark soil. No one sees the first moment, but the whole garden will know when it breaks through the ground. You have grown accustomed to words that make you feel noticed, because you spent so long in regions starved of affection. You believed that if someone praised you, they saw your value. If they were gentle, they must be genuine. But love is not the indulgence of the ego. Love knows how to place a hand on the exact place that hurts, how to stay silent when you need to examine yourself, how to speak what is not easy to hear but keeps you from the abyss. I do not lift you so the world will see. I lift you so you will not have to kneel under the weight of your own burdens. I do not inflate you so you will want to rise above others. I set you in the right place so you know that every step matters, even when that step is small. My voice does not make you the center of the world, but it lets you see that you have always been at the center of my love. There will be times when my words do not seem reasonable to you. They do not give you shortcuts. They do not hand you instant painkillers. They do not grant you the kind of triumph your ego craves. I speak things that require you to ponder, to return to me, not to run back to the world for confirmation. I plant within you a different kind of longing, not the longing to be recognized, but the longing to belong. Not the longing for indulgence, but the longing for peace. Not the longing for victory, but the longing to live rightly. And as you walk in that longing, you will see, my voice lifts the heart. It does not puff up the ego. My voice does not carry you upward like a balloon. It makes you firm, like a pillar of stone in the sea. There are voices that come to you, clothed in the beauty of applause, lifting you like the first wind of the season, making you believe you are flying, that you have suddenly reached some higher plane. They tell you that you deserve so much more, that you need no one, that you are so special the world should revolve around you. At first, such words sound like encouragement, like comforting arms, but they never ask if you are tired. They never ask where you have been broken. They never ask whether you want to be healed or only want to escape the pain. These false voices lift you with a strong wind, but they do not lead you to a harbor. They push you far from shore and leave you drifting in open water, where the waves are no longer under control and the winds change direction without regard for your peace. They stir up your pride, but they do not give you an oar to find your way home. They praise you, but abandon you once the thrill has passed and your heart is searching for a place to anchor. False praise always serves itself, not your soul. It does not care about process. It hates silence. It despises steady growth. It craves instant results. It wants you to respond with impulsive actions, to launch yourself forward like a boat without a course, moved only by what seems like a favorable breeze. Those voices never invite you to pray. They invite you to take off. They never ask, "Have you asked me yet?" They ask, "What are you waiting for?" They do not help you discern. They stimulate your ego. You think they understand you because they call out the deepest desires of your heart. But true understanding is not the ability to strike your desires, it is the ability to lead you back to truth. False winds do not care about the shore, they care only about motion. False voices do not care about your soul, they care only about the allure of the moment. One of the clearest signs of false praise is its disappearance when you need something to hold on to. It is like a friend who speaks the most beautiful words at a banquet, yet when you collapse in the middle of the night, it is as silent as an empty chair. It is present when you are joyful, but nowhere to be found when you face your fears. It praises you for what you do, but never looks at who you are becoming. It cheers when you run, but abandons you when you fall. It does not know how to wait for you. It only knows how to push you. And anything that urges you away from my presence does not come from me, no matter how sweet it sounds, no matter how perfectly it says what you want to hear. The wind from heaven does not drive the boat away from its shelter. It supports the sail when the boat is already set in the right direction. My voice does not excite you and then leave you to manage on your own. My voice gives you peace even when nothing has changed yet. False voices do something even subtler. They make you believe that praise is proof of love. They convince you that the one who speaks the most flattering words is the one who cares the most. But true love does not need many words to prove itself. Love knows how to wait. Love knows how to ask. Love knows how to remind you to return to prayer when your heart has slipped off its foundation. False voices laugh loudly in the moments when you want to flare up, yet stay far away when you must become still to heal. They cannot bear the silence of the soul, because silence is where the counterfeit is exposed. Your soul needs only one moment standing still before me to realize how many voices that once led you far never actually walked with you. They only used you. They did not lift you. They consumed you. And you only recognize this when the wind dies down, when you look around and realize you have drifted so far from shore that you no longer see where you began. Some ask, how can I know it is not you? I answer you without using fear. If a voice causes you to forget to pray, to forget to return, to forget to bow your head in quiet, it is not from me. If a voice makes you believe you do not need grace, do not need to be refined, do not need to learn patience, it is feeding your ego, not your soul. If a voice leads you to think you can live apart from me and still be full, that is the voice of the deceiver. I never lead you to a place where I do not go with you. I do not send you out to sea without placing a compass in your hand. I do not lift you with a gust of wind, only to abandon you in the middle of the waves. I bring you into maturity by never letting go of your hand, even when the journey is slower than you desire. Your maturity is not measured by praise. It is measured by the understanding that the shore is not found in the allure of the wind, but in your willingness to come back every time you are carried away. There are times when you want to hear me like thunder, when you want my words to awaken you with a storm, when you want me to pull you to your feet with undeniable power. But I do not always come in lightning. When you are exhausted, I come to you like the slanting light of late afternoon, not dazzling, not dramatic, but just enough to cast a layer of stillness over your heart that you cannot find anywhere else. I know when you do not need more fire, but need breath. I know when you do not need more instruction, but need a sky wide enough to breathe under. I do not scold you for your weakness. I sit beside that weakness and place my hand on your shoulder, as if to say, you are still safe in me. My voice does not set you ablaze when your heart is worn. My voice becomes the place where you ask for rest. You once thought I only appeared in peak moments of faith, but I am closest in the tired evenings when your eyes can no longer clearly see the hope ahead. The slanted light across the window does not promise you an instant dawn, but it reminds you that day has not yet ended. So do I. I come when you have no strength left to try, when you have no words left to pray, when your mind is just a hazy space between wanting to live and wanting to let go. I do not speak to you in slogans or lofty philosophies. I speak through presence, through the gentleness that makes your tears fall without you knowing why. Those tears are not failure. They are the signal that your soul is recognizing I am still there. My voice, when you are exhausted, does not call you to immediate action. It does not command, demand, or coerce. It is like a drop of water falling onto dry ground, not changing the landscape in a single touch, but beginning a process of renewal, you will come to recognize in time. I do not encourage you with a rush of excitement that quickly fades. I heal you with a peace that endures. When you hear my voice in your weariness, you will see that I am not asking you to stand up at once. I am simply inviting you to put your burdens down. I do not say, you must be stronger. I say, let me be strong for you. I do not ask you to prove your faith. I give you a place to rest within it. There are souls who think I love them when they shine, when they pray aloud with passion, when they serve tirelessly. But I love you even in the moments you lie motionless, staring at the ceiling, not knowing how to keep living. I do not love you conditionally. I love you patiently. When you are exhausted, I do not see you as inadequate. I see you as a soul that has gone too far alone. I do not look at your failures to evaluate you. I look at your journey to heal you. I knew what you were walking through before you tried to put it into words. I saw your sleep-deprived steps before you came to me seeking answers. My voice is gentle not because I do not care, but because I know you can only receive truth now when it comes as soothing, not as demand. The slanting light of evening does not compete with dawn or sunset. It simply exists in the very moment when the heart is most vulnerable, when the light is no longer so strong that it blinds you, but soft enough for you to finally lower your armor. That is how I come to you. I do not want you to brace yourself when I touch you. I want you to relax so that I can work in the places you have long kept locked. You think I need you to be ready, but true readiness happens precisely in the moment you run out of energy to resist. When you say to yourself, I can't anymore, I whisper, I can. That exchange does not happen with an explosion, but with a gentle breath sounding within your chest. My soft voice when you are exhausted is not an ignoring of your mistakes. It is a declaration that I have never regarded your mistakes as your essence. I see you beyond your brokenness. I see you beyond the times you stepped away from truth. I see you beyond the quiet self-accusations that have worn down your soul. When I come to you in gentleness, I do not say, you should have done better. I say, I am still here. That alone is enough to begin again. You do not need to achieve anything for me to come. You only need not to shut me out. And even when you close the door, I am patient enough to stand outside until your heart opens a narrow crack. Many times you have treated my silence as a closed door, as a starless sky, as an empty space full of anxiety that makes your heart wonder what you have done wrong. You have assumed that when I do not speak, I am not watching. You have assumed that when I do not answer, I do not care. But my silence is not absence. It is the space I give you so that other echoes may die down, so that my voice, which is never loud, can go deep into the places where words cannot reach. You want me to answer in sound at once, but I know that if I respond in noise, you will hear me only with your ears. When I respond in silence, you must hear me with your soul. I am not silent to punish you. I am silent so that you no longer cling to all the outer voices and forget the one already living within you. There are messages I do not send as a voice, but as a movement. My silence does not create a meaningless void. It creates a room for you to step into slowly, so you may look back at what you once let noise dictate. In that silence, the things that once seemed monumental become small, and the recorder, things you never dared to confront, begin to reveal themselves. I know that if I speak too much, you will only hear what you like to hear. But when I am silent, you are forced to face the questions you have buried inside yourself. My silence is like a still lake. If you wait long enough, you will see the sky reflected upon it. Likewise, if you sit long enough without running from discomfort, you will see truth reflected in your spirit. My silence does not come in the moments when you are strong. It comes when you have run so long that you no longer know who you are running for. I do not break in to compete with human voices. I simply stand beside you until you realize that every piece of advice, every praise, every stimulation fails to give you the peace I once placed within you. When you are exhausted, I do not fight for your attention with a grand call. I let you return your attention to your own heartbeat. For I know that when you begin to hear your breath again steady, unhurried, you will remember that it was the rhythm I placed in you from the beginning. I am not afraid of being misunderstood in silence. I am afraid you will be stolen by the voices that come from places not belonging to me. Within that silence, you will see clearly what the sweet voices of the world have hidden. You do not need an immediate answer to be safe. You need a place to rest. You think that the answer is what heals you, but I know that it is peace that heals you. When I am silent, you learn not to chase the first voice that eases your anxiety, not to drown yourself in promises made for instant emotion. When I am silent, you begin to see how many relationships were built on dependence, how many compliments were transactions, how many good things were traps wrapped in kindness. I do not come to affirm those illusions. I come to break them at the root, and sometimes you must hear me in the place where no words remain except stillness. I have told you that not every voice is my voice, but there is something more you must know. Not every silence is my absence. When I am silent, I am still there, but I invite you to take one more step, one step from listening into recognizing. You cannot hear me clearly if your heart is full of expectation, anticipation, and restlessness. You hear me only when you lay everything down, when you are brave enough to let peace, not urgency, lead you. Silence is the path I open for you to learn discernment. What arises from peace belongs to me. What arises from fear does not. I do not need to persuade you with arguments. I only need you to see that where I stand, the wind does not make you sway. There is a kind of silence that does not bring peace, and you have once mistaken it for my stillness. It is like an empty room with no sound, yet your mind is chaotic. It does not lead you inward, but pushes you toward self-pity as if by enduring long enough, all answers must eventually submit to your ego. False. Silence is when you begin inventing your own answers, writing a script for your life based on excuses born from wounded instinct. It makes you believe you need no one, that no one understands you, that everyone is against you. But that is not strengthening. It is the way darkness teaches you to build a room for itself. That silence does not invite you to return to me. It drives you into a loneliness, like the inside of a seashell, where all you hear is the echo of your own fear. False silence often comes after disappointment, rejection, or relationships that have hurt you. It tells you, no one is worthy of your openness anymore. It flatters you with soothing words. Live for yourself. You don't need anyone. But that pride does not heal you. It only paints over the cracks no one has ever touched. It makes you wrap your heart like a precious object locked in a box, but a box without any key to open. That silence does not lead you to true peace. It leads you to paralysis. You think you are calm because you no longer hear anyone's voice, but in truth you are sinking into the depths of your own soul. I do not create a silence that closes the door on every living soul. I create stillness so you may open the door to me. Solitude is not where I place you, so that you become an unbreakable fortress. I do not teach you to build walls to avoid pain. I teach you to grow roots so that you may stand firm. There are those who choose to lock their emotions away after being wounded and call it peace. But that is only counterfeit silence, like a sky covered in clouds that hides the moon. It is not the absence of light, only light being obscured. If you listen to that silence long enough, you will begin to believe you no longer need me, only that you must close every door, hold everything inside, and console yourself with, I am enough on my own. My child, that is not strength, it is collapse decorated with pride. The stillness that comes from me will always lead you out of the cocoon of isolation, while false silence binds you with the cord of self-importance. There are moments when you mistake the relief of shutting out all voices for peace, but that relief is like leaving the battlefield, only to find yourself lost in the forest. No one is chasing you, yet you no longer know the way back. That feeling of, I am fine without anyone, is the temptation of loneliness. It convinces you that no love is deep enough, no connection is real enough. But look at your heart. True peace never comes with hardening. When you feel the need to protect yourself by sealing every window, that is not my whisper. That is the bond between wounds and fear. I do not bring you into silence so you may curl into yourself. I bring you into silence so you may let yourself fall and allow me to lift you. You can tell true silence from false silence by the purpose it creates. The silence that comes from me softens your heart, slows your breath, and teaches you that you do not need to control everything. It is like a sunset that is not spectacular, yet its gentle orange releases the burdens of the day. It does not teach you to cut people off. It teaches you to unfasten the cords binding you to what does not belong to you. False silence, by contrast, is like a dim lamp in a locked room. No one can enter, but no light can enter either. You feel safe simply because no one is close enough to hurt you anymore. But that safety is an abandoned field. No life, no growth, only weeds rising from fear. I will never lead you to a place where you must lock your soul away just to survive. My stillness always opens a door. It always allows you to see that even if you do not understand everything, you have not been abandoned. My silence always has a destination. Either I am healing you, or I am preparing you for a transition. False silence leads you nowhere. It only keeps you standing still in the dark. Remember this as you walk through lonely seasons. I do not push you away so you will learn to live without anyone. I draw you out from the crowd so you will remember there is only one place to lean upon, the place where I dwell. There are two kinds of silence that enter your life, and you only recognize their nature when you look at the direction your soul moves afterward. One silence makes you close yourself off, build walls of defense, gather your emotions like someone collecting ashes after a fire that once burned. That silence does not calm you. It only makes you remain quiet out of fear, afraid of speaking wrongly, afraid of opening up, afraid of letting the light see the shattered corners within. It is like a lamp with its wick already burnt. On the outside there remains a faint glow, but smoke fills the air, stinging the eyes, making it hard to breathe. That light does not guide. It merely lingers for a few final flickers before it fades. That is false silence, where your soul is swallowed in the haze, showing you neither the way nor the truth, and slowly convincing you that the light within you has died. The silence that comes from me is different. It is like an oil lamp that still burns, not brilliant, not hurried, but sustained by a steady source. When you look at that flame, you know it is enough to carry you a little farther. You are not pressured to shine for anyone. You simply need to keep stepping forward. My silence does not make you fear speaking. It does not make you feel meaningless. It does not provoke doubt in your own worth. It causes you to breathe deeply, to place your hand over your chest and realize that I am there. You do not need to run seeking answers, nor prove anything. You only need to let yourself return to my rhythm, and that rhythm always leads to peace. You discern silence by examining where your soul goes afterward. If the silence makes you forget to pray, makes you rely on yourself instead of coming to me, makes you withdraw from those I sent to strengthen you, then it is not from me. It is like the wind hitting a window on a rainy night, soft in sound, but cold and sleepless. My true silence is like a misty dawn. No one calls your name, yet the sky seems to rest against your skin and whisper, "Rise," not because you are strong, but because you are not alone. Do not judge silence by how it feels in the moment, for emotions can deceive you when you are weak. Look at your next step. The silence that comes from me always leads you back to prayer, back to the gentleness I placed in you, back to the question not why was I hurt, but how do I walk in a way that preserves the life you have given me. That silence is like a potter's hand pressing upon wet clay. There is no sound, no grand promise, only a gentle pressure that shapes it anew, not to show it off, but to prepare it to endure the heat of the kiln. My child, you do not discern silence by its emptiness, but by its outcome. My silence produces movement, sometimes a small step, sometimes only a single deep breath, but it is always life. False silence freezes you, keeping you stuck in a dark room where your own thoughts echo only within your fear. True silence is like a lamp with its wick intact. The light may not be enough to illuminate mountains and valleys, but it is enough to set your next step. You do not need to know the entire journey. You only need to know that the light has not gone out. You often think that discernment is a skill to be achieved, a spiritual ability reserved for the mature, those who have weathered many trials, souls experienced in seeing through deception. But before discernment is knowledge, it is togetherness. I do not call you to become a sentinel on the front lines, eyes wide, fearing every word, suspecting every person. sealing yourself in isolation because you're afraid of making a mistake. I lead you into a life where my presence becomes the atmosphere you breathe, where discernment is no longer conflict, but the natural result of living beside the source of truth. When you walk in me, you are not striving to distinguish real from false. The truth within me pushes the counterfeit out of your soul, the way light removes the places where darkness can stay. In the dark you think you are alone, but I have never gone far. You simply looked in the wrong direction. I do not walk ahead of you like a distant commander giving orders, nor stand behind you like a referee waiting to judge your every misstep. I move in the same rhythm as you, not faster, not slower, so your heart can learn where life comes from. Many times you think I am silent to test you. In truth, I am silent so you will not confuse my voice with the noise of the world. When you listen to me, my voice does not rush in like a storm, does not crush you with blinding force. I touch your soul like a hand on the shoulder of someone trembling, not to pull you away, but to steady you. Discernment is not born from your effort to understand everything. It is born from walking with me long enough to know the difference between peace and seduction. There are paths that shine with dazzling light, yet your soul feels out of breath. There are paths draped in fog, yet you know each step you take is upheld by an unseen presence. You once tried to analyze every thought, weigh every word, terrified that you would choose the wrong person, the wrong direction, the wrong counsel. You held your fear of mistakes like a fortress wall and forgot that I do not leave you in a graveyard of choices. I walk with you like a father placing his hand on the back of a child, learning to walk, not shielding the child from every fall, but close enough to catch them before the ground can hurt them. I do not ask you to become an expert in discernment. I ask you to become a soul who turns back whenever you cannot find me in the next step. You do not need to know every scheme. You only need to know my presence, like a traveler in the night who needs only to know the direction of the stars, not the study of astronomy. You only need to know the direction in which I am leading you. In the times you choose wrongly, I do not stand afar, sneer, or scold. I stand beside you and bring you back, often simply by a quietness that makes deception lose its appeal to your soul. You must learn one thing. I do not lead you by fear. I lead you by the identity I have placed within you. When you know you belong to me, you no longer hand your heart easily to sweet words that are hollow. When you know I am with you, you no longer run toward warm faces just to escape loneliness. My presence is a shield unseen. It does not stop every temptation, but it gives your soul clarity to recognize what is trying to pull you toward the abyss. If a voice draws you away from prayer, away from sincerity, away from the essence I have given you, then it is not from me, no matter how gentle it sounds. I walk in rhythm with you, not to indulge momentary emotions, but so your soul learns patience, learns to step one beat at a time, learns to trust a guiding hand that does not need to prove itself. You do not need to see me to know I am there. You only need to recognize that the peace you feel is the peace that leads you back to me. You look at the seasons when you had to walk in darkness and think that I abandoned you. Yet it was in that darkness that you began to lean on me, instead of on hollow laughter, gentle encouragement, or inviting arms that could not lift the soul. I walk with you the way a guide walks through the forest at night, not waving flags or lighting up the entire woods, but lifting a lamp just enough for you to see the ground beneath your feet. That presence does not lead you to noise, but to the place where you learn how to listen to truth from within. You have never faced the darkness alone. You were simply too busy staring at artificial lights to notice the small but steady flame waiting for you to return. I do not require you to shine. I require you to remain. I do not require you to be strong. I require you to know where strength is found. In every decision, the foundation is never, "Are you wise enough?" but, "Are you in me?" If the answer is yes, clarity will unfold in its own time. You once thought discernment meant distancing yourself from everyone, closing your heart, avoiding contact, choosing isolation as a fortress so no one could breach it and wound you again. But discernment is not fear, dressed in seriousness. Discernment is maturity that knows some voices are meant to stay and some are meant to be released, not because you hate anyone, but because your soul no longer resonates with the well they draw from. I do not teach you to become a sealed oasis. I teach you to become a garden with a fence, where light can pass through, rain can nourish, but destructive hands cannot trample the sprouting life. The loneliness you chose was to avoid pain, but the discernment I want to teach you is to choose what helps you grow. The one who closes their heart out of fear lives only to avoid, the one who discerns lives to protect what is sacred within. There are voices that approach you with confidence, words drenched in wisdom, as if they possess the secret to make you grow faster, but they speak only through the lens of their own experience, unaware of the shattered seasons. Your heart has endured. They say be strong, but they cannot hold your trembling hand in the night. Not every voice that speaks correctly is a voice you should hear. Only the voices that draw your soul back to me, back to peace, back to its source, are the voices worth keeping. Some people make you laugh loudly, but after meeting them, your soul is emptier than before. Some speak little, but after you part from them, your heart is calmer, lighter, as if a faint warmth has been lit in a forgotten corner. Discernment does not lie in how pleased your emotions are in the moment, but in the quiet change that settles inside after the encounter. I have never called you into harsh isolation. The solitude I give always has windows facing the light, always has space for you to breathe and recognize the beauty of the road ahead. But the isolation the enemy plants in you is a locked warehouse, where you sit alone with negative voices, convinced that every heart is a threat, every word a lie, every path a betrayal. I do not form discernment so that you can drive everyone out of your life. I form discernment so that you may know who helps your soul stand tall and who causes your soul to shrink out of fear. There are people who appear only when they need your energy and disappear when you need theirs. I do not tell you to hate them. I only tell you not to let your soul become the cup they drink from when thirsty and abandon when full. Many times you ask me, how do I know who to keep? And I whisper into the silence, look at who you become after leaving them. If you return to me more easily, if your desire to pray increases even a little, if your heart becomes softer toward the weak, that is the voice that nourishes your soul. But if after the encounter you doubt yourself, if your soul feels heavy as stone, if you feel the need to prove your worth, to defend your purity from mockery, then that is not someone I have sent. My voice, even through a person, never robs you of peace, never forces you to abandon truth for the sake of temporary emotion. I do not allow gentleness to strip away your dignity, and I never send people who make your soul curl up in fear of making a mistake. Remember, discernment does not make you someone standing on a mountaintop looking down on the crowd, believing you are better or deeper. Discernment is the recognition of who walks in the same rhythm, who helps carry your weight, who respects the growth I am forming in your soul. Some relationships are beautiful like spring, but they were only meant for a stretch of the journey. When the season changes, you must let go in order to grow. Some advice is kind, but without foundation it decorates the surface like flowers in a vase, lovely but without roots, unable to live long. I want you to choose those who have roots, souls that are not perfect but know how to lean on me, not because they have all the answers, but because they will share silence with you. When words would damage the work taking place within, there are people who approach you with well-meaning words, offering immediate comfort like a soft chair that makes your body relax, but they do not help you take another step. They say, rest in our arms, don't try so hard, don't endure anymore. And the words feel lovely, but they are like a thick mattress in a darkened room inviting you to fall asleep in a life smaller than the destiny you carry. I do not send you people who keep you weak just so they can feel important. I send you souls who know how to bend down to lift you up and then step back so you can find your own rhythm. They do not pull you into dependency. They give you space to practice standing. They do not replace me as your foundation. They simply point toward me and step out of the spotlight once you know how to walk. True nourishment never locks you inside a cocoon of affection. It is like the friend who walks beside you at dusk. They know you are tired. They are willing to slow their pace for a moment, but when the sun begins to set, they remind you to go home instead of holding you back out of laziness. There are souls that radiate warmth, like fire, not to burn, but to keep you warm long enough for you to regain your breath, then return you to the path I prepared. They are not there to be your savior. They are there to remind you that you carry love within, that you carry light within, and that my voice runs through your soul. These are not the ones who need you weak to feel strong. They rejoice when you become steady, and they are glad when you can stand without them. That is the mark of nourishment that comes from me. It focuses on your life, not on their control. You have grown used to relationships that make you shrink. There are people who do not want you to stand tall, because when you stand, they lose something to lift themselves with. They need your wounds to create their role. They call your weakness endearing, your dependence, companionship, your fear, sensitivity. But you must understand, a soul healed by me offers support like a step, not like a crutch. A step helps you rise to a higher level. A crutch keeps you limping forever. The one I place beside you will not paint over your helplessness. They will not repeat, "You'll be fine," just so you never change. They will lay a gentle hand on your shoulder and say, "Try one more step," even when that step trembles. They do not do it for you. They believe you can do it. Imagine a young sapling beside a wall. If a hand stakes it too tightly, it will never develop roots deep enough to withstand the wind. It will stand there, looking steady, but the moment the wall is removed, it collapses because it never learned how to cling to the soil. So it is with humans. Those who nurture you through dependency turn you into a leaning trunk, never teaching you how to draw nourishment from the source I have prepared. But those who come from me are like early rain. They soften the earth. They help the roots find their way. They do not pull the sapling into their own shadow. They allow it to reach toward the light so that it may discover its own living identity. That is why I do not allow easy relationships to last too long. I know that if you remain in that hollow comfort, you will forget that you were born to live, not to be sustained. You must learn an essential humility. You are not meant to become the center of someone else's world, and no one is meant to become the center of yours. When you regard a person as your source of life, you unknowingly remove me from the throne that only I should hold. When you see someone as the only radiance in your night, you grant them power over your heart, and when they falter, you collapse with them. I do not allow you to anchor your identity in any person, no matter how kind they are. Your identity is grounded in me, and those I send are simply the ones who remind you of this. True nurturing does not rob you of agency. It deepens your heart, makes it more stable, more resilient, not more dependent. You will know you have met the right kind of person when, after your conversations with them, you want to pray more, to listen more carefully, to live more kindly, not simply cling to them. You have moved through each section as if walking through thin layers of mist, where every step revealed a new stretch of light within your soul. Now, as the message draws to a close, I want you to look back on the journey not with fear of what is false, but with awakening to what is true and taking shape inside you. You have seen that false voices do not always shout. Sometimes they borrow gentleness to make you forget prayer. You have recognized that discernment is not a battle against the world, but a return to me, where my breath becomes the compass, where my peace becomes the gravity that pulls you back to the true path. And you have understood that not everyone who smiles at you is sent. Some only make you lean, but the ones I send always make you stand. My child, I do not guide you through confusion. I guide you with light sufficient for each step, so you may learn to trust the rhythm I have placed within your heart. You no longer need to fear false gentleness or twisted silences, because now you know that everything which comes from me leads you back, not pushes you away. You no longer discern with trembling, but with depth, where you recognize what nourishes your soul and what makes it shrink. And from this place, you will walk forward not as one who fears the dark, but as one who has seen the light within. Go on, my child. Hold the gentle awareness I have sown in you. The world may change its colors, voices may change their disguises, but the truth in me will not change. When you walk in that light, no deception will be able to hold you anymore. I do not only want you to walk securely, I want you to know that with every step you take, I am walking with you. Now pray as follows. Lord, teach me to discern your voice among the countless echoes of this life. When my heart is unsettled by advice that seems loving yet draws my soul away from peace, let me pause before you. Like a weary traveler searching for true water, place within me the stillness to know that the rest that comes from you is not escape, but return. When my emotions rise or fall, remind me that you lead me by direction, not by the impulsive surges of the mind. Help me not to chase the sweetest winds of the moment, but to choose the gentle slope that leads to your hill, where my feet ache, but my soul grows strong. Lord, grant me eyes that can discern the true gentleness of your presence. Do not let me be lulled to sleep by soothing words that make me avoid the truth, even if they comfort me in an instant. Teach me to understand that you do not cover the wound with a soft blanket so I may forget, but you place a warm hand upon it so that I may face it with you. Help me not to mistake kindness for compromise, not to call empty, soothing, healing, not to call neglect, peace. Give me the courage to receive your gentleness, the kind that draws me toward the light, not the kind that blinds me to the darkness. Lord, when those around me use affection like water poured over my exhaustion, remind me that not every concern carries your breath. Some hold my hand only to lead me off the path you have drawn. Some look at my wound only to silence it so they can feel at ease. Engrave wisdom in my heart so I may know that true love never demands I stray from you in exchange for their approval. Guard me from false gentleness, like a damp cloth that wipes the face, but not the soul. Help me see when tenderness is merely a coating over spiritual abandonment. Lord, when my soul wants to take dazzling shortcuts because I am tired, place within me a quiet call no one else can mimic. Walk in me, even slowly. Your path may not thrill me at once, but help me recognize it. By the endurance rising within my heart, keep me from choosing the cliffs just because they glitter at noon. Guide me toward the gentle hill where dawn awaits. Grant my feet patience to know that meaning is deeper than instant pleasure, and that the path you lead always brings stability, even when it does not bring excitement. Lord, make silence within my heart large enough for me to hear your soft whisper. When the world roars that I deserve rest in reckless passions, remind me that real rest is in your arms, not in abandoning myself. When the voices of people urge me to let go as an excuse to let my soul drift, remind me that letting go in darkness leads only to collapse, while letting go in you leads to healing. Guard my heart against hollow comforts, against smiles without roots in truth. Lord, help me not to flee from the wounds you desire to touch. When I want to hide behind someone else's laughter or activities that make me forget myself, draw me back to where I must face them. Grant me peace not to conceal, but to be strong enough to name every fracture within my heart. Place light upon the blade that cuts me, not so I may fear it, but so I may see it is only a tool, not a destiny. Let me believe that truth has never harmed me. Only prolonged deception breaks the soul. Lord, please show me how to recognize your voice in seasons of silence. When every door I once knew closes, help me understand that it is not abandonment but protection. Teach me to accept the walls you raise to keep me from the edge of the abyss, instead of trying to break them down like one forcing their way into a path that does not belong to them. Grant me the humility to know that sometimes the greatest kindness you give is not answering quickly, so that my heart may open instead of hardening. Lord, deliver me from the allure of voices that lead me farther away from you. They come dressed in wisdom, speaking in warmth, yet they teach me to place my soul in human hands rather than in yours. Remind me that no comfort is trustworthy if it does not lead me into your light. No counsel is healthy if it encourages me to avoid the truth. Grant me the strength to ask, am I moving closer to you, or merely feeling more comfortable? Lord, let me remember that the peace that comes from you is not a momentary feeling, but the bedrock beneath the waves. When words, sweet as honey, invite me to chase after them, help me recognize the thirst that rises in my throat after I drink. When I stand before choices that make life easier but weigh down the spirit, remind me that what you promise is not a smooth road, but feet strong enough to walk firmly across every terrain. Lord, when I feel lonely because I refuse shortcuts, pour into me the confidence that you are walking with me in every slow step. Help me understand that being called stubborn by others is not a failure, but evidence that I am choosing truth over convenience. Keep me from envying those who gain quickly by compromise, from coveting results purchased at the cost of the soul. Lift my eyes beyond the present to see the glory that grows out of steadfastness. Lord, keep me from judging voices by how pleasant they sound. When something makes me happy but weakens the fire within, grant me the resolve to let it go. When something makes me afraid but draws me closer to you, grant me the courage to step forward. Engrave within me the truth that you do not lead by immediate emotions, you lead by destination. Teach me to love truth that is slow and enduring, not joy that flares and dies, like fireworks. Lord, make me one who returns, not one who escapes. When I lose myself in long nights, help me remember that you are not in the noise or the lightning, you are in the whispers, in the narrow beam of light that keeps my feet from the precipice. Teach me that whatever pulls me away from you, no matter how gentle it feels, is not love. And grant me faithfulness in the journey back, step by step, breath by breath, knowing that you wait for me in a peace no one can steal. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we may build a strong community of faith.